Hello, all, and welcome to the very first episode of this podcast series. This series is all about exploring the connection between music, the brain, and how we learn, think, and experience the world all around us. So, the idea behind it is simple. Music isn't just something we just listen to or perform, it's something that actively shapes how our brain works, and often in ways that we don't even realize. So, through these conversations, I want to understand that connection from people who actually live it, musicians, educators, and people who see this impact every day. So today, I'm really excited to be joined by Mr. Vinson, renowned tubaist, educator, and instructor in the Northern Virginia area, coaching students who play both tuba and euphonium for over 15 years. Mr. Vinson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Yash. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, of course. So am I as well. So let's first start with something a little broad. So, from your experience as a musician and teacher, how have you seen music affect the way that people, think, learn, or respond emotionally over time?
Everybody has different styles of learning, so we have to start and think about that. But number one, all different kinds of music, all different types, can spark different kinds of emotions with different individuals. For me personally, well, let me back up. I like to reference this athletes getting pumped up. Say, if you ever watch baseball, they get to choose what tune they play before they walk up to the plate. Hopefully, the point of that is to kind of, motivate them, to get them excited and things like that. So we can use music in that way. You could think of a heroic soundtrack in a movie. You could think of funky music that makes you want to dance. You can think of relaxing music at a spa or even a coffee shop or something along those lines. But there's all different kinds of emotions that so many people can come up with music. Um, we've talked about in the past things like photographic memory. We've heard people mention that. I don't say I have one of those, but almost a melodic memory. I can remember melodies really easily and I memorize things very easily. And I credit a lot of that to my musical experiences and what I've learned in music and how much time I've spent, memorizing scales, memorizing concertos or whatever it might be, but putting all that in into play. I feel that music can really help a lot of people learn, but again, we said different ways of learning. So, I remember when I was in grade school, my dad always reinforced using flashcards, and I memorized all my times tables, which kids don't have to memorize anymore. But when we had to memorize all of these, I just used the flashcard. This one, then the next one, the next one, the next one. Well, a similar kind of thing got me through, college making flashcards for music history and even music theory and stuff like that. So I do kind of credit that to what my dad taught me and reinforced with doing flashcards. But still, I think that some way memorizing something, however you come to it, however you figure it out, definitely helps with brain, I don't know, learning and just being smarter and understanding stuff. So the fact that music forces you to memorize different kind of things, whether you're memorizing an entire piece or if it's simply just your scales or even one particular rhythm. Take marching band into account. Now you have to memorize where you're going on the field as
Yeah.
well while playing your instrument and everything else. So I don't know, a lot of that kind of thing with learning. I find music really, really helps people to learn. And as far as responding emotionally, well, I said that about the athletes coming on the stage.
Mhm.
I can remember when my grandmother passed away and I had to go to my childhood church and sit there in the front row with my mom, hearing her sing um, Amazing Grace, the American hymn tune, Amazing Grace. Hearing her sing that at her mother's funeral, every single time I hear that song or I have to play that song, that memory comes back. And I know that's one of your future questions, but still, that's something that happens for me every single time, and I it takes me back to that memory.
Yeah, definitely. Music can definitely help people reconnect with certain memories, such as your grandmother passing away. That's really important and important to realize. So, when students are learning an instrument, what changes do you notice at how they focus, remember, or even process information?
Again, it's case by case. Okay. I have
Mhm.
some students who just simply get it and they understand and they can figure out the relationship from one note to the next, one
Mhm.
partial to the next, and
Yeah.
memorize melodies or even just be able to regurgitate melodies that they've played over and over and over. Okay. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have students who just can't seem to figure out scales or arpeggios and
Mm.
things like that, even the exercises that we use along with that. As far as processing information, I consistently say that scales and arpeggios are the building blocks of how melodies are created. So the better that we master that, the easier it is to understand melodies, music, and what the composer was trying to get at, even emotionally. Understanding how their compositional techniques and styles can help, portray different memories and stuff for performers and listeners alike. Um, I also preach a lot in music about patterns. Patterns, whether we're doing scales, again, I say this a lot, but scales, but even taking your modes into account, going up the scale with the starting on the different note of the scale, but keeping the same key signature. Um, a lot of that, putting that into the performance, freeing up the brain to focus on other aspects as well, because we have those particular things memorized and we're able to just play it without having to think about it so much. So I find that, processing information and music definitely go hand in hand and help one another.
Yeah, that's great. So do you think it's like specific to music or does it carry over into other areas like school or problem solving?
I went to my daughter's theater performance last night,
Mm.
and they have been working on the same show since January. That's even worse than some of the high school marching bands up here, right?
Yeah,
But either
certainly.
way, no, there was no memory slips. Everybody knew their lines, but at the same time, they have to memorize that. And similar to marching band, where they have to go on the field, when they have to come out on stage and go back off. So yeah, I could see that, or even take dancing or ballet or something. Obviously, having to find rhythm, follow the beat, and be able to express yourself with emotions between here to here, or this move, and choreography, etc.
Yeah, certainly. I was actually reading an article the other day about Phrygian and Ionian modes and how those like affect your ability to sight read music. So I definitely agree with the fact that memorizing your scales, arpeggios can help in recognizing patterns in music. So have you ever seen music help someone reconnect with something like a memory, as you mentioned, an emotion, or even confidence that wasn't coming through in other ways?
Absolutely. Yes, the story that I just mentioned about Amazing Grace
Mhm.
absolutely comes up. And even the athlete thing, whatever song they have to pump them up or something. I have seen, professional boxers, MMA fighters. What are they doing before a fight? They've got their music on. They're focused. They're in their game. I've even seen people at, professional tuba auditions doing the same thing. I don't know what they're listening to, but hopefully it was to help, center their brain, their focus to get ready to do the task at hand and whatever it might be. But yeah, memories. I mean, I can remember songs when I hear it on the radio or something. Now we call it retro rock, which hurts me, but that was when I was in high school. And I can remember a memory just from a song that I'm hearing. I remember being with some buddies in the car driving somewhere or tailgating with friends in college or whatever it might be. But all kinds of memories for me personally are sparked by music because music has been such a big part of my life,
Mhm.
and it's something that I focus on and pay attention to. There's something to be said for background music to set a situation or whatever, but no musician goes through life saying, I want to be a background musician. I mean, it
Yeah.
happens and it depending on what we're doing, but still it happens. But I don't know. I see music really helping me with emotions in many, many different ways. And like I mentioned, with memory, remembering things as well.
Yeah. So I know you teach a lot of young people. So let's start by talking about something that happens when these young people grow older. So do you think continuing to play or engage with music as people get older has an impact on their brain health? Why or why not?
Brain health, I'm not sure. I don't see it hurting by any means. I mean, it's
Hmm.
another tool to make our brain focus and think and to try and do different skills.
Yes.
My dad's an older gentleman and he's a musician. He was a director, a band director. But nowadays he keeps his brain sharp by playing word games on his phone. He does all
Oh,
kinds of little similar games, but it keeps his brain very, very sharp. I mean, of over 80 years old, he is still extremely with it and sharp, and he still spends a lot of his free time composing and arranging music and things like that. So I find that helping a ton for him. I had another student who was an older gentleman who played never professionally, but when he retired, he decided, hey, I want to keep playing, and so he took trumpet lessons from an individual. They couldn't find a tuba player for his brass quintet with a bunch of other men in his similar situation. So he's like, I'm going to buy a tuba and I'm going to learn how to play it. I helped him for over 10 years, once a week, going to his house and teaching lessons for him. And he didn't spend enough time practicing, and he knew that. But at the same time, it kept his brain sharp and it kept him healthy mentally. I mean, he did a lot. He still took trumpet lessons. He took guitar lessons. He took drum lessons. He took
Wow.
tuba lessons. And then he switched to euphonium, and I taught him that as well. I didn't teach him drum or guitar. But still, just seeing older people do that and reconnect with it, I don't know if it makes them feel younger or not, but it definitely helps with keeping the brain sharp in many different ways. Because as we get older, we know that the brain starts to slow down for many individuals. But I find music really helping a lot of people to stay, healthy, brain healthy.
Hmm. Yeah, with the student you mentioned, it seems like they were like a multi-talented musicians. It's interesting to see how the skills in each instrument translate across fields. For example, like brass and drums. It's interesting to see how that connection develops over time.
Sure.
So, if someone has no musical background, how can they realistically start using music in their daily life to support their mental or cognitive well-being?
Many different ways, and this could take an entire podcast right here, man. This is great, but this is something I don't have any experience with, but I've heard of music therapy, and that is something that is an entire major that people can go and major in college. Um, like retirement assisted living homes and retirement homes for elderly people. They will use music for different situations just to set a mood. Now we talked about background music, but at the same time, just to try and, set a mood and to make people happy or to make people relaxed or that ball player coming up to home plate, getting pumped up or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think music for everybody. I think we should do more of this when we're younger, but for older people especially, it really helps just to keep the brain healthy, like we just mentioned a second ago.
Yeah, it's really not just playing music, but more learning and listening to music at the same time. That can really help with brain health at the same simultaneously. So that all is like really powerful, and I think it highlights something that a lot of people don't fully realize, that music isn't just a skill. It's something that we can actually shape how we think and experience the world. Mr. Vince, would you like to add something?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, think of the different cultures, the different types of music from all around the world. And, hearing that can set a mood again. So, for even as simple as a restaurant, playing culturally music that makes sense, going to a Mexican restaurant and hearing some kind of mariachi or whatever,
Yeah.
it sets the mood for people or salsa dancing, so to speak. So, yeah,
Yeah, definitely. And as a musician, I can definitely say that playing music can come with certain interpretations of music. Like, for example, for a passage, you can play it more heroically or more slowly and lyrically. It all depends, and that will invoke emotions in the listener, for example. So that's really important.
absolutely, and this is something I try and convey to my older and more mature students. When you're younger, we're working nuts and bolts, getting the right
Yeah.
stuff, right valves down, right partials, etc.
Mhm.
But yes, as we get older, trying to spark emotions in the listener, because for us, it's fun to perform and it's fun to do it our way, but at the same time, we have to communicate with the audience so that they are feeling some kind of emotion. I jokingly say this with a lot of students. I mean, it could be as simple as an etude that we're working on, but say, pretend that this was the soundtrack to a movie or a video game or a TV show. What kind of characters do you picture? What kind of situations do you picture? What are you feeling? I need you to convey that. And whether I receive the same, I don't know, emotion that you're conveying, as long as you're conveying something,
Yeah.
I'm going to feel something emotionally. And that's where music is magical for so many people because it doesn't have to be the same thing. I remember my teacher in undergrad asking me what I was thinking about or what kind of picture I was portraying. And I said for this particular piece, not going to say what it was, but I was a hippopotamus or even uh, uh, an elephant dancing ballet, you know? I mean, you don't see something that large and heavy trying to be agile and beautiful, but that's what the tuba really does. And so when I said that to him, he absolutely laughed because he says, "Now that you've mentioned that, I heard that in the way that you played it." So then he was like, "Correct, that's good. That's the way you need to convey these kind of emotions through your performance."
Yes, this definitely proves how music can have an impact on the brain health for both the player and the listener at the same time. So, Mr. Vinson, thank you for again for taking the time to share your perspective. I really appreciate it. And to everyone listening, this is just the beginning. The goal of this series is to explore how music connects to brain health, learning, and everyday life from multiple perspectives. So, if you're interested in learning more about this project or getting involved, you can check out braininspiredlearning.com. All one word, check out the site. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.